Two, three. Hello, Dr. Karen. Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, Josh?
I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. So, first that I'd like to ask is what exactly is acupuncture and how does it work?
So, acupuncture is a tool that we use to practice Chinese medicine. Acupuncture is a way of adjusting a patient's body and their body's functions by using various points to achieve a health outcome. So, if a person is tired, we can use points that help to sedate them, to help to energize them. If a person has anxiety, we can use points to help to sedate them. And the longer we work with someone, the deeper we go into these processes to help their body to learn how to do this themselves. So the ultimate goal of acupuncture is for the patient to not need acupuncture.
I'm sorry, what was the ultimate goal, Dr. Karen?
The ultimate goal of acupuncture is for the patient to not need it anymore. Our
Mm,
goal is to resolve the patient's issues so that they no longer need treatment.
I see. That totally makes sense. Thank you. But I'm also curious, are there different types of acupuncture or is it all at the same? Or all the same?
There are a bunch of different styles. So there are multiple Chinese styles of acupuncture. There are Korean styles, there are Vietnamese styles, there are Japanese, and all of these take on a little bit of a different flavor that largely related to the culture that they come from. All of these different styles can be effective, but it's important that a patient finds a practitioner who practices a style that works for them. So if someone is very athletic and likes strong sensations, then going for a Southern Chinese style, which can be a little more aggressive, might be something they really like. You see a lot of orthopedics coming from that region. If someone is interested in something subtler and gentler, the Japanese styles use thinner needles and tend to be a little bit softer in their approach. Neither one's right or wrong. Different people just resonate with different approaches.
Oh, that's interesting. So aside from the traditional Chinese medicine, there are different types like Korean, Japanese, Vietnamese. Very interesting. Thank you, Dr. Karen. And
Absolutely. Well, the
yeah,
traditional Chinese medicine part of it, our oldest books related to acupuncture go back about 2,000 years and they come from
wow.
China. But over those 2,000 years, these ideas have spread all over Asia. So while we call it Chinese medicine, this age, it's really more East Asian medicine as a whole. It just happened to start in China.
Okay. So basically, Chinese medicine or acupuncture really originated from China, right?
Mhm.
Right? Oh, okay. Thank you. But I'm always hearing the words meridians, qi. So what are these acupuncture points and how are they determined?
Well, the idea of where the acupuncture points are and what they do has been passed down to us through this tradition. We think of the acupuncture points as existing on lines throughout the body. So we can relate something on the heel to something on the head because it's connected by this single line. We then use these points to adjust functions of the body. That's kind of a simple explanation. A little bit deeper, um, we can look at this in a Western medicine context in terms of nerve pathways throughout the body, which the acupuncture meridians are quite similar to. We can look at it in terms of muscular chains in Western medicine, in Western anatomy and physiology, which a lot of the channels also trace along. You know, being 2,000 years old, some of the contemporary anatomy ideas that we have didn't exist. But at the same time, these people were able to figure out quite a lot about how the body works and where these systems are located and how they're connected. Um, so when we stimulate an individual acupuncture point, we're having an effect on the nervous system, we're having an effect on the muscular system, we're having an effect on the fascial planes, the connective tissue throughout the body. We there's good research showing changes in brain chemistry and production of natural painkillers. So while we understand a lot of pieces of acupuncture within a Western context, within a chemical context, within a orthopedic context or neurological context, there's also a larger world of these points seem to do some other things to help with, say, emotions, which we have a little bit of a harder time mapping onto Western concepts.
I see. Okay. And I also heard on your transcripts the word healing earth. And I also noticed I heard on the podcast with Angela Mafia and you that there are some fire, water. What does it mean?
So Chinese medicine is based on Chinese philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
That's the ground on which it rests, which means that it's related to Confucianism, Taoism, and Buddhism. Through that, one of the central ideas in Chinese medicine is the idea of yin and yang. This gets translated in many different ways and could certainly deserve its own conversation, but basically relates to storage and expenditure of resources, with yin being storage and yang being expenditure. When it comes to treating patients, yin and yang is usually not enough information. We need to bring in more concepts. And so we have different lenses that we use to look at the patient's health differently. One of those is what we often call the five elements, which is better translated as the five phases. And that includes these ideas of wood, fire, earth, metal, and water. These five different phases, these five different elements, can be used as a holistic way of looking at someone to help them to move through things that might be getting in the way. We also relate these to seasons. So the spring is related to wood. We see lots of growth and upward movement. The summer is related to fire. It's hot, but it's also the time for celebration, for travel. The fall is related to metal. It's about getting ready for the winter. It's about storage and harvest. And then the winter is related to water, which is all about philosophy and resting and getting ready for the next spring. And in between each of these seasons, we see the transitions as relating to earth. That earth is what is the period between summer and fall. When it comes to patients, this means that, for example, if a patient says, "Oh, I always get sick in the fall," we might think that there's something wrong with their relationship with metal. Whereas if someone says, "I don't get sick in fall, but I get sick when summer becomes fall, and I get sick when fall becomes winter," we might think they have a problem with earth instead.
Oh, okay. That's interesting. Thank you for clarifying because it's a question in my mind that's boggling me for a couple of days now. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Happy to help. We can go deeper into that in another conversation if you'd like.
Yes, certainly. And lastly, or the last question that I have is how do you determine which herbal formula is the right for the patient?
Sure. So Chinese medicine has its own system of diagnosis. So we take the complaints the patient comes in with, low back pain, insomnia, chronic cough, and we ask ourselves, what is it that's causing this? That's our diagnosis. So the person may not have enough resources to be able to breathe well. In that case, we try to pick herbs that will strengthen the function of the lungs. Another patient might have a lot of phlegm in their chest, making it hard for them to breathe deeply. In that case, we'll pick herbs that help to bring the phlegm up and out. In Chinese medicine, we very rarely use one single herb. We tend to use them in combination. So, for example, if I'm going to give a patient with phlegm in their lungs herbs to get the phlegm up and out, I'll probably give them other herbs which also produce more healthy moisture for the lungs so that we're not drying them out with this process. This way, we balance the formulas, we balance the herbs so that each person gets something custom tailored for them that fits their pattern. And we do this based on classic formulas, some of which we've used for over 1,000 years, that we then adjust the individual person's specific needs.
That's so amazing. It's so insightful, Dr. Karen, that we have this kind of conversation. And I'm really looking forward having this type of conversation in the next next couple of weeks, right?
I'm
Thank
looking
you.
forward to it too. Between these conversations and the ones with Angela, you and I are able to have conversations to help introduce beginners to this subject, to introduce patients to these ideas, to help demystify some of Chinese medicine. And and I get to have conversations at the level of a somewhat new practitioner of someone who's learned a lot of this information and is now trying to figure out how to live it more and more. So I'm
Right.
excited too. I think this will be fun.
Thank you, Dr. Karen. Okay.